What should you do with your gear while you're traveling? I'm going to tell you how to get it to where you're going.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, the Arnold Classic Week edition of Ask Dave. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi, thanking you for joining us here on Arnold Classic Week. In just about a day, or tomorrow, rather, we're going to be in Columbus, Ohio. Dave and I, Chris Aceto is going to be there as well, and we're going to be providing you with wall-to-wall coverage of the 2026 Arnold Classic. Everything really kicks off with the Meet the Athletes, which is going to be Thursday night. So we're going to try to get maybe not everyone, but at least the ones that you absolutely want to see. Try to get the video edited so that we'll have it on YouTube as fast as we possibly can for you to enjoy. And then, of course, the competition begins Friday morning. Classic Physique is going to begin 12:30 Eastern Standard Time prejudging. And then, of course, the night shows. And then you never know who we're going to run into. Last year, we had Phil Heath. John Hansen joined us as well on a wrap-up. So, you know, the who's who of bodybuilding are going to be there, and we're going to try to get as many of them on our wrap-ups, on our recaps. Again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss anything and everything that we have coming up this week in Columbus, Ohio. Right now on the channel, we have our interview with Derek Lunsford, two-time Mr. Olympia, as well as an all-new episode of the After Hours podcast. Dave, before we go to the questions, big news: V-MINERALYZE, the reformulated V-MINERALYZE is back in stock, and you have a bottle right there with you.
Finally, it's here. Everyone's been asking about it. It's here. We have our methylated B vitamins here, methylated cobalamin, methylated folic acid. We have vitamin K2, which directs calcium away from the blood vessels into the bones and muscles. We have vitamin D3 in a 5,000 units now, much higher than we had prior. This is the most comprehensive, complete multivitamin, multimineral, antioxidant, polyphenolic, plant extract product on the market. It's all you need. It's one bottle. It's got everything in it. I'm very proud actually to say that we have this. I mean, this and OmegaLyze, which is all your essential fats, and you just got to eat food after that, and you got everything you need. Obviously, FiberLyze is a staple in everyone's plan. So if you use FiberLyze, V-MINERALYZE, and OmegaLyze, you have got your bases covered. And like I said, I always try to, as new technology comes about, as more information comes about, I try to update things. V-MINERALYZE has been, pretty much standard for the last, 8 years or so. This is the first upgrade to it because I really wanted to add the vitamin K there, and I also wanted to, and we have the different isoforms of vitamin K2 in there as well. So that's super important, and obviously more vitamin D3 and all the methylated B vitamins, because we know a lot of people don't methylate the B vitamins, and if you don't methylate them, you don't activate them, and you can't utilize them properly. So you guys are gonna get even better help with V-MINERALYZE. I'm super happy that it's back in stock. Check it out at speciesnutrition.com. We're also going to have a big sale this coming weekend for the Arnold Classic.
If you're not already following us on Species on our Instagram as well as our TikTok, which we're really trying to promote, we're doing contest giveaways now on a weekly basis. So if you haven't already done so, go check it out. Go check out Species Nutrition on Instagram. And then as well, if you're on TikTok, go check us out, Species Nutrition on TikTok. Let's go to the question.
Listen, hold on. I got to say something about this. Listen, I hate going to multiple places to check things. And I resisted TikTok for a long time, but there's a lot of people on TikTok that are not on Instagram. And we got to be in both places. So to kind of celebrate the launch of Species Nutrition on TikTok, we're giving away free shit. And you guys love free shit. That means free V-MINERALYZE, free FiberLyze, free Stimulize Max. All our products will be given away free at some point. All you got to do is participate in the contests. A lot of times it's a goofy picture. Sometimes it's a little video. But every week we have a contest where we're giving free stuff away. So you're getting it for free. I mean, what is it? You're doing stuff on your own social media anyway. You might as well be creative and send it over to the Species TikTok account. And it will be featured not only on TikTok, but on the Species Instagram as well. And we'll be giving away free product. But you got to post on the Species TikTok. You got to follow us on the TikTok and show us the love. And I'm going to give you free stuff for that. So can't lose.
Let's go to our questions. The first two questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, I'm going to the Arnold Classic on Thursday. I'm coming back on Monday. I can't take my gear with me, and I'm currently on cycle. I'm taking 250 sus EOD, 150 EQ twice a week. So I'll miss Friday 250, 150, and Sunday 250 sus. Should I take an extra shot on Thursday and catch up on Monday, or should I just skip and pick up when I get back?
Good question. Don't FedEx it to yourself if you live in Canada, because we know how that went for some big name guys a few years ago. Not a good idea. I do know people that do FedEx their stuff to the hotel rooms. And if you're doing it domestically, if you're in the United States, I mean, that's not a bad idea. But back in the day, what I would do is I would just put the stuff in my, and you can still do it to this day. No one's looking for anabolic steroids. No one's looking to arrest you going through the airport. They're looking for weapons, bombs, and stuff like that. So if you have a couple of small bottles and you put it inside your sock and you wrap your sock up and put it in your luggage, no one's going to bother it. No one's stopping you. No one's arresting you. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for weapons. So you can do that easily. If you're only going to be gone for like 2 or 3 days and you want to take an extra shot before you leave, that's fine too. Probably easier. I was a neurotic back in the day. I don't want to miss any shots, and I was taking growth hormone every day. So I always wanted to have my stuff available. So either way it works. If you want to take your stuff, just take what you're going to use for that couple of days, put it inside your sock. Like I said, wrap it up, throw it inside your suitcase. The suitcase you're going to check in, not the one you're going to bring as a carry-on the plane. That might be a problem. And you shouldn't have any problems at all. If you want to just, like I said, if you're only going to be gone for a couple of days and you want to just take an extra shot before you go and you don't mind missing a few days, then that's fine as well. It really depends when you're up to. No one is arresting you for having a bottle of testosterone in your socks if you're traveling from New York to Columbus, Ohio. It's just not happening.
Second question, again, these first two from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Kurt Haven recently said after a study he did that test Enanthate is superior than test SIP. To the contrary, Dr. Todd Lee posted a rebuttal that SIP is better because it is more stable. Your personal opinion, or professional opinion rather, and experience on this topic.
Both are long-acting esters. They're pretty comparable in terms of how long they last. And if you're doing a cycle of testosterone, you're probably taking it like 3 times a week anyway, at least. So you're not going to get any noticeable drops. You know what I mean? I've used both. I love both. I hate test propionate. We've talked about that before. That's a short-acting ester, so I wouldn't even compare it. Between SIP and Enanthate, I think there's very, very little variation between them. Some people respond better to one than the other, but I think it's more psychological. You know, in the past, they always said that Enanthate was longer-acting than cypionate, but we're talking days. And once again, if you're doing it on an every other day injection protocol, like I recommend, and like a lot of people do, then you're not going to notice any difference. So my suggestion is use what's real and what's more readily available. That's my suggestion. And these two questions, by the way, good questions coming from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I know you guys out there, I get a lot of questions saying, how do I educate myself? How do I become a coach? How do I become knowledgeable enough? And I send all of you to take my Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, which is an 8-hour class. It's pre-recorded. It's on, you can get access to it through the link on my davepalumbo.com website. And you can watch the last class that I gave, which was done live, but it's pre-recorded. So you have 8 hours of stuff to watch. Once you sign up for it, you can email me and I will send you the 100-page manual that goes with that, with all my protocols, all my cycles, everything that I've ever done is in that book. It's a tremendous resource you get with the course. And that's the best way to educate yourself. But to educate yourself on a daily basis, because there's always new stuff coming out, you know, that might not even be in that course. Maybe it's something I just learned a week ago. That goes up on the Dave Palumbo Experience app. And that's updated all the time with my latest writings, my latest videos. I do a Q&A on there. every single week. So it's like an extra Ask Dave video that's up on that app. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum, so everyone sees everyone's questions and answers. It's a tremendous learning experience, plus all my protocols and diets and, off-season, pre-contest, keto diets, all the cycles, everything's there. It's the greatest resource of all time. And for $29 a month, you can't go wrong. You download it from your Android store or the iTunes store, and you get me in your back pocket to answer your questions anytime you want. And this is a tremendous, tremendous resource. If you're a coach, you can write it off. It's an expense. It's an educational expense. So it's not going to cost you anything. And it's great to have that. I wish I had this growing up. I had to wait every month for Bill Phillips' Muscle Media 2000 to come out just to get any little new snippets of information. Now you got me daily updating this thing. I want to just thank you guys for all the support. We have a lot of members, and that's why I continue to do it.
Before we go to the rest of our questions, Titan Medical has a sale on the recovery stack, the lowest that they've ever sold it. This is the stack that includes BPC 157, TB 500, and KPV. $175 off the original price only this week. And they're also promoting the ARA 290 to stack on.
Yeah, I love this healing stack, the TB 500, the BPC 157, the KPV, and the copper peptide. Great, quad duo that just all kind of feed each other synergistically to help heal injuries and just make you feel better. So I just take it like prophylactically, just to feel good on a regular basis. Even when I'm not in pain, I take it once a day just because I feel so good on it. And it's nice that they're offering such a discount on it. And I'll tell you why, because the truth is, I see gyms that are now selling peptides. It baffles me that these people are doing this, but they're doing it. I see it at the gyms. But the problem is that when you see these like gray market versions of these peptides, like you can see in the gym and health food stores, and they're injectable, you just don't know what you're getting. There's no way of knowing that what you're taking is really what's in there. It could just be a growth hormone releasing peptide for all you know. When you go to Titan Medical Center, all these peptides are compounded by a compounding pharmacy and sent to you with a prescription and everything. So they're 100% legitimate. They've all been tested. They're all 100%, potency of what they say on the bottle. The customer service is second to none at Titan Medical Center. And for me, I would rather spend the extra few bucks to have that certainty that I know what I'm taking is the real thing. And with a sale like this, I would get over there and take advantage of it, really. And when you head over to TitanMedicalCenter.com, tell them Dave Palumbo and RX Muscle sent you for a great discount.
Let's go to the rest of our questions from our YouTube community page. Why is it, you probably ask, how is it that Lee Priest never did PCT and is still able to get his wife pregnant?
Lee Priest is what we call a genetic freak. You never ask genetic freaks what they do or how they got to where they are because they just don't know. Like when people doubt that Lee Priest used, the dosages of stuff that he says he used, I believe him 100% because I've never seen a bigger genetic freak than him in my life. If you ever look at his hands and his feet and his calves and his forearms, they're inhuman. Whether he's on gear or not, they're still bigger than any person who takes gear. And that's just Lee. So to wonder why he has a daughter, and I don't even know if he was taking gear when he actually had his daughter, because his daughter's, she's not a young little girl. He had her probably, well after, he might not even been on anabolics at that point. I don't know what the year was that he had his daughter, but he's a genetic freak. Ronnie Coleman had eight daughters, all while on gear. So, that's not the norm though. So if you think, all right, I'm going to take gear and I'm going to get my girl pregnant, it's probably not going to happen. That's why the pregnancy protocol, or the baby making protocol, as I call it, that I give out, works so effectively because it does take advantage of science to turn back on the sperm production, the sperm motility, the sperm morphology, so that you can get, your wife or whatever pregnant when you want to. For most people, being on gear is just not going to cut it.
Where I put it. All right. My abs keep cramping up every time I do ab exercises, like bad. I'm hydrated and I can't figure out what's going on. I'm on TRT 200 mg a week, nothing else.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. Usually when you're on, some sort of testosterone, it actually makes you retain more fluid, which makes you better hydrated. Sometimes people restrict too much sodium in their diet. So if you don't eat any salt on your foods, would probably be my guess as to what the problem is. Also, sometimes I know people that take like multivitamins that have calcium in it, but they aren't balanced with the right amount of magnesium. Like V-MINERALYZE, we put, the right amount of calcium and magnesium. They're both chelated, so they're both absorbable, through the stomach lining. As soon as you kind of swallow those pills, they're in. And I don't notice anyone who has any kind of magnesium calcium imbalance on V-MINERALYZE, because we use, like I said, the most absorbable chelated forms of these vitamins. So sometimes cramping can be like a magnesium deficiency, especially if you take a lot of calcium. In my experience, it's normally from not eating enough salt, because people think that if I eat salt, I'm going to get fat. I don't know why they have this crazy notion. When you're off season and you're training hard, you want to eat a lot of salt. You want to stay well hydrated. If you don't eat sodium, you're going to walk around dehydrated. You're not going to be as strong in the gym, and you're not going to be in as an anabolic state. The muscle cells like to be well hydrated. So my suggestion, since you're not taking clenbuterol, so it can't be a clenbuterol cramp, I would recommend salting your foods. And if you're taking in a lot of calcium, either switch to V-MINERALYZE or try to balance your calcium with a little magnesium supplement.
Should HGH be run indefinitely for anti-aging? And what is your most recent IGF-1 level?
I don't even know what my IGF. It's like the high normal, but I don't take GH, so I think I'm just naturally produce a lot of natural growth hormone. I think it's just something I've always done. But you can take GH theoretically year round if you feel good on it and you're doing it like a therapeutic dose, like maybe 2 IUs per day. If you're doing a lot high amounts, like 6, 7 IUs, which is probably a waste of money, but let's say you're doing like 6 IUs there, I would probably take some breaks throughout, maybe every 12 weeks, take 4 weeks off, because you're going to make yourself really insulin resistant and you might start running some high fasting blood sugar. So you might want to give your body a little break. Personally, I think lower dose over a long period of time is a much better way to go. 2 to 3 IUs per day, every day. You won't notice a lot of insulin resistance on a low dose of GH like that, but you get all the benefits. Growth hormone works it's better long-term rather than short-term hitting a lot of it. Because if you take too much of it, you're kind of wasting it, because your body's liver can only produce so much IGF-1 in response to growth hormone. Remember, growth hormone tells the liver produce IGF-1. But if you take beyond a certain amount per day, your body just can't produce any more IGF-1. So you're kind of wasting your time and your money in that sense. So my suggestion would be less GH over a long period of time.
Interesting one here. One drug from the pro ranks, let's just say high level of bodybuilding, that you would ban to improve the look of today's physiques, and why?
I don't know if any particular drug is causing people to look bad. Now, there are dangerous drugs out there. I would not have anyone ever use DNP. I think that's a very, very dangerous drug and unnecessary. As far as, what drug might be creating a bad look on people, I don't know about that. I mean, all the anabolics, don't really have any negative effect. I guess if you abuse GH, it could, cause a lot of excessive fluid retention, which doesn't necessarily look good. And if insulin is used appropriately, it can combat insulin resistance and a lack of insulin production by the body. So I think most drugs just need to be used responsibly. And a lot of times people don't know how to use them responsibly because they don't understand the science behind what they're doing. So what would I do? I would just tell people to stop just shotgunning every single drug they think that they need. Because I see people with lists of peptides that they're taking daily. I can't believe it. There's like 20 peptides on this list. Of those 20, probably 2 of them actually do something. So I would recommend stopping the polypharmacy, just because you think, all right, these are around, I have access to them, I'm going to buy them and use them all. You're probably getting nothing out of it. And you might be getting an interaction between the two that you don't even know what's going on. And that could be causing some funky side effects. So don't overdo it. Use what works, throw the rest in the garbage.
Well, earlier you talked about Lee Priest and being a genetic freak. Well, speaking of another genetic freak, can you explain how Jay Cutler used to diet on 1,000 grams of carbs and 300 grams of protein? I know he was close to 300 pounds at start of prep, but that's still over 5,000 calories per day. Or was it implied that those carbs were on training days only?
Yeah. Well, your energy requirements are pretty much the same on training versus non-training days. I mean, you might have a little bit higher because you're doing cardio every day. Don't forget. So, and your metabolism is revved through the roof, especially when you have that much muscle. Listen, Jay had a lot of muscle on his body. He, by his own admission, when we did his podcast, he explained to me that he basically did very fat-free diets. He didn't eat a lot of fat. He would have to eat, more red meat usually to get the fat. So, if had he eaten fats, he probably could have lowered those carbs. And I told him this. I said, you probably had to eat way more carbs than you needed for fuel because you were not eating enough fat in your diet. And he's like, yeah, I think you're right. Because when I would eat red meat, I would look a lot better. Obviously, red meat has a lot more fat in it than, say, like chicken and fish would, or even eggs. So it doesn't surprise me. He was on a lot of growth hormone by his own admission as well, which revs your metabolism through the roof. And it also makes you a little insulin resistant. So he might not have even been absorbing all those carbs he was eating. And that's a big problem. I see guys that are eating massive amounts of carbs and they're walking around flat, which tells me they're not absorbing the carbs, maybe because they don't have enough insulin present. And, no one really knew that much about long-acting insulins when Jay was competing. So he probably needed a long-acting insulin, would have probably helped his efficiency at absorbing all his food. I think we all could have benefited from that, from that 90s and early 2000s era, but that's, you live and learn. That's one of the things that I wish I knew more about in that era. I kind of was fumbling around with insulin, but I didn't really know, the differences between long and short acting and which ones I should use and all that stuff. So I think the technology and the knowledge today is much better in that regard.
What are the risks of titrating peptides and bioregulators too high? And are there irreversible damage, or is there irreversible damage that can be done? This is for healing and not for muscle building.
I guess he's talking about the typical healing peptides that we all recommend, that we all use, like TB500 and BPC. I mean, I guess look, I've never taken too much of it where I've had a side effect because I just don't want to waste the money doing it. Number one, and number two, I'm pretty good at listening to people's recommendations for dosages. Although I take 200 micrograms a day of BPC, I know guys that do 1,000 and say it works amazing. So you're just going to go through bottles very quickly, which could make for a very expensive healing modality. But I haven't seen side effects when you go too high on these. And I think that's why RFK Jr. is advocating for their legality, because he's saying, listen, even if they don't work, they're not causing any damage. No one's having side effects from it. There's no documented side effects from these things, which, can also lead you to believe that maybe they're not quite as effective as people are saying they are. That's my belief. I think a lot of these peptides do nothing. There are some that work, and those are the ones I tend to talk about a lot, like the BPC and the TB500 and the copper peptide. I talk about those a lot because I actually feel the difference. The GHRP, or the growth hormone releasing peptides, work to a certain degree, but everyone responds differently to how much GH they're going to the release. And a lot of the ones that like are metabolic boosters, the Sloop and all those MOTS, those things promise way too much and deliver very little in my mind. So I would stick with the ones that have a proven track record. Stay away from the ones that are all hype. Those are the ones that you go on TikTok or Instagram and they're like hyping them through the roof. And the guy's like 160 pounds. He's like, I'm on all these peptides and they're great. And I have cognitive function and I have this and I have that. And I can lift 200 pounds more than I normally do. And meanwhile, the guy looks like a bag of shit. So I would stay away from those. Like I said, there is no peptide out there that is comparable to an anabolic steroid. And matter of fact, it's not even comparable to the weakest anabolic steroid, which would be Anavar. So steroids are still king in my mind.
What is the single most pervasive myth about training that's still out there and widely accepted?
That you have to train each body part more than once a week, I think. Or that if you want to improve a body part, you should train it more frequently. which I think the opposite is true. You should train it less frequently. Because if a body part's not responding, assuming you're training it right, it probably is a body part that's easily overtrained. And because it's not growing well and people are putting more effort into it and training with more sets and maybe doing it an extra day a week, that tends to make things worse rather than better. Like if you have a weak body part that's not recovering well, you're better off doing it less. You might even want to do it once every 8 or 9 days as opposed to once every 7 days. But usually once a week is adequate. And that's just been my experience my whole career and the people I work with. Less is better. When you have a weak body part, hit it hard when you train it, but then leave it alone and let it recover.
Take a couple more questions. Is tren and enanthate absolutely necessary to build a top physique, or only if you want to compete? I'm 45 years old.
I don't think there's any anabolic steroid that is absolutely necessary because they all do the same thing. You know, tren happens to make you very aggressive and strong in the gym. You look good on it, because the glycogen gets stored in the muscles at a higher level, but it's not necessary. And for some people, if you're not sleeping properly, if your digestive system is getting messed up, if you're getting fired from jobs because your attitude is all wrong because there's too many androgens, then it's not a good drug for you. If you have an even temperament and you can take the stuff and you can function and you can sleep at night and your body can digest food, then you can use it. Once again, another drug that's less is better. For a while I was recommending 100 milligrams 3 times a week. Now I recommend 50 milligrams usually 3 times a week, and it seems to be enough. And it gets the job done with the least amount of side effects. I see guys taking 6, 7, 8, 900 milligrams of tren a week. They're going out of their minds. They can't eat. They have a digestive tract. They're hiccuping. They have sleep problems at night. You don't need to take that much. You're just getting more side effects.
Take one more question. I'm dieting right now, and I'm just realizing that I'm taking about 150 unaccounted calories and sugar-free fiber. Do these calories really count towards total caloric intake, or am I good since they aren't absorbable? I'm really trying to lean out. I just want to make sure.
Okay. Sugar-free does not always mean carb-free, because some carb sources are not sugar. Fiberlyze is completely carbohydrate. Fiberlyze is net carb 0, meaning that the only carbs that are in the Fiberlyze are the fiber itself, and fiber itself is a non-absorbable form of carbohydrate. So if you have 9 or 9.5 grams of fiber in Fiberlyze, all 9.5 grams are not absorbable because they're fibrous, and by definition, they're not absorbable. So right then and there, you have a perfect product. But if you have a product that is sweetened with something that has, that's not sugar, but maybe it's like maltodextrin or something like that, they could still say sugar-free on there, yet there's still carbs in there giving it some flavor. That's not sugar-free. You probably wouldn't want to use that on your diet. Now, if any of you have used Fiberlyze, you would know that it's the best fiber supplement on the market because it works the most effectively. It tastes great, and the flavoring system has no sugar. It has no carbs in it. Okay, so we haven't added any net carbs to the product to flavor it. It's all an artificial flavoring system so that you can use this while you're dieting. And even if you use 3 or 4 servings a day, which I don't recommend, 2 servings is enough, you're not going to have any problems. You're not going to gain any weight from this.
And that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Dave, you're going to get there at 10 in the morning tomorrow, right?
Dawn. I'll be there like 8:15 probably, like in the morning. So.
What time is your flight again?
It's like 5:20 or something like that in the morning. You know what it is? Out of Fort Myers, it's very hard to get a direct flight. Southwest flies direct. Breeze flies a few days a week direct. So Breeze doesn't fly on Thursday, only flies on Wednesdays and I think Sundays. So I had to take Southwest there, and they had a direct flight. The only good thing about Southwest now is they don't do this. They used to do this cattle call where first come, first serve. If you get on the plane last, you wind up with a middle seat. And now they have assigned seats, so I don't mind using Southwest anymore. So I fly Southwest there direct from Fort Myers, which it's like a 2.5-hour flight. It's closer than going to New York. And I get there, and that Columbus, Ohio airport is beautiful. It's small. It's really not small, but it's small enough that It's got that hometown like feel to it. You get your luggage, you walk outside, you grab an Uber or a cab, and it's 15 minutes to the venue. It's that close. You know, you can almost walk it, not quite. And they get dropped off at the hotel. Now, the only bad thing is that when you get there that early, the room is never ready, right? Because they claim why the rooms have to be ready at 3:30 in the afternoon when you're paying for the whole day. I don't know, but that's just the way it works. Hopefully, my room will be ready before that. If not, I'll just be sleeping in the lobby. So if you see me sleeping in the lobby, don't wake me up, please. Okay.
So again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. We have a lot planned for you this weekend in Columbus, and we're going to try to grab as many big names as we possibly can and try to cover this show as thoroughly as we always do. You're in for a real treat. It's going to be a great show, a great competition, and we can't wait to bring it all to you. Subscribe below, hit the notification bell. We also have our live stream. So we're going to have our live broadcast Friday night and Saturday night. It's going to feature King Kamali. It's going to feature Arnold DB, Chris Cook, and Melvin Anthony. So you want big personalities on this channel?
What a great lineup.
Yeah, it's a great lineup. And then the classic physique prejudging during the daytime. I believe we're going to have a live stream of that as well. Our very own Aman Kumar is going to be sitting there and giving you his analysis of what's taking place on stage with the classic physique division. A very, 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 dear God, this is a quasi-Olympia classic physique division, minus only 2 from the top 5. This is going to be a great, great show, great, great contest. And again, we can't wait to cover it all. Can't wait to get started. So the next time you see us, we're going to be in Columbus, Ohio for the 2026 Arnold Classic. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you from the Arnold Classic.